It's a real privilege to be here at the Top Empowerment Virtual Conference and listening to the array of amazing speakers and really current and up-to-date content. Signa is a group of companies that leverages transformation and technology to prepare Africa for a working future. And we've been operating in the transformation space for the last 15 years. And during this time, I've seen many different approaches to transformation, some good, some not so good. Today, I'll be chatting about just a few of the better ideas that I've seen that can support your transformation success in this time of economic and social upheaval. Now, let's face it, South Africa is in a chaos at the moment. And honestly, we were in a pretty bad state before COVID-19. The evil twins of unemployment and inequality were already at pandemic proportions. COVID-19 has just exacerbated that situation, decimating about 1.1 million jobs in the last 100 days. Many companies are in survival mode. Some have not made it. I've heard people talking about the global economy facing a sort of a V curve or a U curve, but it seems many businesses in South Africa are in reality almost facing a K curve. It's either up or it's down. And there doesn't seem to be much of a middle road. So the burning question then is, how do companies, and in particular the leaders in businesses, look above all of this chaos where we are right now and even begin to think about transformation while we're just fighting to survive? Transformation strategy, and in particular BE strategy, has fallen off the bus for many businesses. The problem with this is that I think it might actually be a fatal error. And I believe that if leaders are committed to their business success, which I think we all are, then we cannot put on hold our strategies for transformation success. Bottom line, if one looks at government's policy focus, then transformation success is a big part of business success. This will be particularly true when South Africa emerges from COVID-19 and lockdown. So for better or worse, we have this measure of transformation, the BBBEE scorecard. And I know that BBBEE is already a key policy of the accelerated economic recovery strategy that government and business have been engaging in. And even with all of its imperfections, BBBEE is still seen as a key policy to drive economic inclusion and close the inequality gap. The problem with the BBBEE scorecard is that it's a complex instrument and it focuses on many very different metrics. I believe that if companies could focus on just one metric to underpin their transformation and BBBEE strategy, this would simplify our lives. For me, this metric would be net real jobs created and retained. More than any other social intervention, people in jobs is the most efficient method to address inequality and fuel GDP growth. Now, we all know that economic growth and job creation is driving almost every policy intervention right now. And even though I would love to see just one measure of transformation, it does not change the fact that right now, a company's BE credentials, or even its BE level, firstly, is seen as a measure of its transformation success, and secondly, is seen as a public declaration of how well it has engaged in economic inclusion. Now, whether or not it's the most appropriate tool to measure transformation success, your BE level will be one of the key tools that your company has at its disposal when doing business in post-lockdown South Africa. So how do the owners and leaders in businesses commit to transformation success and achieve a competitive BE level, knowing that it's imperative for the future, when right now, preserving cash flow and keeping afloat are the main priorities? Fortunately, the BE legislation is not prescriptive on how companies can approach their transformation strategy. So for businesses that have a turnover of less than 50 million Rand per annum, the obvious and most effective way to maximize your BE credentials and embrace transformation is to be 51% Black owned. This affords a company an immediate level 2 status, reduces the cost of compliance to zero, and is very attractive to corporate and government customers. For Black entrepreneurs in business, this is a highly competitive edge. For businesses that are not 51% Black owned, however, this might sound like an impossible strategy, but maybe not. An effective Black ownership option potentially lies in the private equity provisions that were introduced in the amended BE codes. Now, if having the right funding structure plus 51% Black ownership is a key that could unlock your growth or turnaround on that K curve, so really turn around from here to here, then this transformation strategy might be the most cost-effective way for small and medium enterprises to embrace transformation and ensure their success. A benefit of using the private equity provisions is not only the significant cost savings for compliance, but small and medium enterprises actually are investing themselves in transformation that can truly address job creation and drive growth. For large businesses, transformation success depends on a much broader approach. It must be part of the DNA of a company, its culture. We all know the famous saying by Peter Drucker that says, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." But where does culture come from? I believe it comes from the values, and more particularly the way the values are lived in an organization. I see on almost every company website talking about their values, things like respect, integrity, accountability. While these are powerful words, they only have meaning if this is how companies truly behave and operate. Transformation success is really only possible where there is true mutual respect, mutually shared integrity and accountability among the people in the organization, and then between the company and its broader stakeholders, us, the fellow South Africans. Leaders cannot pay lip service to these values when engaging in transformation. For large businesses, transformation success cannot be driven from anywhere else in the organization other than by the leaders, starting with the CEO. It's just not possible, in my view, to delegate away this enterprise imperative, and especially not now during these times. But sometimes sticking to core values is difficult when there are these attractive schemes out there. An example where I've seen conflict playing out in boardrooms recently is with these various ETI schemes, which basically round-trip accounting entries to create ETI tax claims and BE recognition. The tax savings are compelling, and the round-tripping is very easy to hide. It's not easy to detect. But how does something like this align to the values of integrity, if that's one of the key values of an organization? And only the leaders in companies can really make these calls. Still, leaders in large businesses are faced with the same dilemma that small businesses are facing right now, and that is that they're being severely affected by COVID. And as a result, are also holding on to cash and cutting costs, and in some cases, cutting jobs. On top of these realities, large businesses need to measure 5 elements of compliance to determine their BE level. This means measuring their ownership structures, addressing employment equity, skills development, procurement policy, support for small and medium enterprises, and their social responsibility. Now, while all these measures count towards a BE score, I believe transformation success is only really possible where companies measure what matters and not only what counts. If jobs retained and jobs created is the most effective means of poverty and inequality alleviation, then how does one incorporate this into your BE strategy, especially while hunkering down through lockdown? I believe the most effective way to achieve transformation success is to be smart about leveraging the interaction of the various elements of how BEE and other supportive legislation to support your transformation strategy, but particularly to use them to preserve your cash flow. So just one example of what large companies can do to stimulate job creation and economic growth while achieving superior BE credentials is what I call leverage investing. Now, the BE codes award 15 points to companies that undertake enterprise development and supply development. Now, one of the provisions in the BE codes, a provision called minority investment, there's a provision that says if you invest, and it could be from 5 to 10 years, you can earn 15 points per annum on your BE scorecard for a single investment. Now, this in itself is a massive cost save. I recommend to my clients to direct their investments via a well-managed Black-owned Section 12J venture capital fund, so that this creates an immediate tax benefit at the same time. So what happens is they achieve an immediate 28% return on investment for their BEE initiative. By investing in entities then that supply you with goods and services, mean that the beneficiary entity has an anchor client, which helps ensure their success. So it creates a virtuous circle. By buying goods and services from the beneficiary entity, it further improves the procurement credentials of the large enterprise because the supplier is Black-owned or Black woman-owned, and this adds procurement points on the scorecard. Then, deploying yes candidates, young, talented graduates with great potential, into these beneficiary entities can add further capacity to the beneficiary entity at a very low labor cost to them. This creates jobs and can bump up 1 or 2 levels on the BE scorecard of the large enterprise. Then, by using the tax provisions for skills development, large enterprises can add a further 12 points to their scorecard at a close to zero cash cost, while improving the skill levels in their beneficiary companies. So, for me, a single transformation strategy like leverage investing can add up to 27 points on a scorecard every year for up to 5 years, generate an immediate 28% return on investment, support the small and medium enterprise sustainability, and create jobs by bringing young graduates into employment via the YES program. And because of the tax incentives, these 27 points can be earned each year at a zero net cost after the first year of implementation. Now, while this might sound too good to be true, the essence is that firstly, understanding the BE legislation, which in itself is quite challenging, and then unlocking the benefits of complementary legislation, particularly the tax legislation around the Section 12J venture capital investing and the tax deductions for skills development, means that a single strategy can support a large part of transformation success for large enterprises. So looking at it this way, BE compliance is only the starting point of an effective transformation strategy. It's not the end point. Using cash flow friendly strategies like leverage investing that companies can do now, even during COVID, plus applying a values driven approach to transformation that focuses on what really counts, getting and keeping people in jobs. And getting this balance right, to me, is the true art of transformational leadership. And I believe that is what's required in South Africa right now. I encourage leaders to embrace these kinds of innovative strategies for transformation success. Right now, when everyone else is looking out only for today, the opportunity to emerge strong and sustainable in the very near future is in your hands. I look forward to engaging with you regarding your transformation strategies. Thank you very much.